My god, look at Gohan's overbite. My boy's looking like Bart Simpson. With the announcement of Tenkaichi 4, I sat down and played all of the original Budokai games with the intent of finding out whether or not they hold up. Today we're talking about the black sheep of the Budokai series, the sequel to the prequels, Budokai 2. The biggest change between the first and second game when it comes to combat, already mentioned in the prior video, is that we can use energy projectiles outside of a combo now. There are also a select few characters that have access to fusions. Budokai 2 concludes at the Buu Saga, so any seasoned Dragon Ball fan should know what fusions those are, for the most part. This game does contain a few non-canon fusions, which is awesome, by the way. Like most DBZ games, there are transformations. There were transformations in the last game, in fact, and they work the same way, but I'm as dumb as a box of rocks and missed that very key component, so consider this a band-aid fix.
Alright, Super Saiyan.
If your character can transform, and they have enough ki in the ki gauge to do so, you press the punch kick and guard button at the same time. Bam! You're a Super Duper Saiyan, or whatever else.
If he's a Super Duper Saiyan, then I shall find a way to become a Super D-Duper Saiyan.
Each transformation level grants you a little bit of overall strength, and somewhere between decimates and destroys the ki within said ki gauge. If you don't have enough ki to maintain it, and you get knocked to the ground, that power is gone. Moving on to newer ground. The story mode in Budokai 2 is called Dragon World, and it functions as a board game. It's a super neat idea, and it's also not very well implemented. In every stage, you control Goku, and you get to select a few different allies to join you on the board, including Goten and Trunks in the would-be Saiyan saga that you start in, and adult Gohan too. If you look at the first board, you'll notice we're not fighting just Raditz. Nappa's on the board. We're also hunting a Dragon Ball, just a single one. On the second board, we have to defeat Frieza, who looks to be on Earth for some reason. Ginyu and Raccoon are there as well. In the third stage, you have to defeat Frieza again, and Vegeta actually shows up, finally. You get the point. Chronologically, things are out of whack. It's not just telling Dragon Ball like it tells it in every other game. And that might just be the most interesting thing that this game does do. Character customization now plays a bigger part as it actually affects you within the story mode. You can also pluck capsules right off of the ground, and enemies drop them upon being defeated. So you won't necessarily have to hit the shop before you hit story mode. Anyway, you'll be moving around, encountering enemies, completing whatever mission has been thrown out on the board in front of you, and on another note, sometimes the mission on said board is to defeat an enemy, and you won't just be defeating that enemy once. Nope, every piece on the board has health chunks. 2 to 6. With the exception of grunt enemies like Saibamans and Cell Juniors, enemies are going to have more than one health chunk, that's why I said 2 to 6. These chunks don't correlate to the health that they have when you fight them. That would be too easy. Instead, they correlate to the amount of lives they have, the same as the chunks on your characters do. If you've beaten a character on the board once already, until the turn in which they act, they'll have a status effect on them that doubles the health chunk damage they take. This can help to negate the utter slogfest that this system creates just a little bit. Mind, the same thing can happen to your characters, but if your characters do ever get particularly low on health chunks, you can just stand on a Dende and suck up all of the health you could ever want. One of the dumbest things by far in Budokai 2 is the way in which you unlock characters. The bulk of them are earned through the story mode. That makes well enough sense so far. Now, just select very specific allies for every stage, and land the final blow on characters that you might not have actually even been expected to beat in the first place. Who you have to beat with who makes sense when you consider the canon, most of the time, but you could just end up playing through the game without ever looking up a guide and unlock practically nobody. As an example, during the android board where you'll be fighting all of the androids, you want to make sure you're bringing both Piccolo and Krillin along for the fight. You need to defeat 16 with Goku to unlock him, you need to defeat 17 with Piccolo to unlock him, and you need to beat your wife as Krillin to unlock her. If you made a misstep like I did and didn't bother checking a guide before selecting your characters for the stage, you can't undo that. You have to play it through. Idiot! Now, it can't be much of a Dragon Ball game without having to collect the Dragon Balls, can it? So, with the exception of the first stage, where you get a Dragon Ball for free as it's displayed out in the open for you, you'll need to search for them. Searching is super easy as there is a radar in each stage and they'll tell you exactly where the Dragon Ball is at. You move to that space on the board and you didn't get it. Nah, just one extra step, homie. Press the punch button and your character begins searching the space in which they're standing. This does take up your movement, but oh well. You can also search other locations and often you'll find teeny tiny buffs or money or whatever. But really the Dragon Balls are what matter. If you've collected all of the Dragon Balls, then the only thing left to do to make your wish is to complete your story mode run. Fun fact time. You can whittle enemies down a health bar at a time. If you lose a fight, then as long as you broke through an opponent's health bar, That health bar stays gone when you fight them the next time, though it does reset to max after you defeat them. This does not happen to your characters. Thank God. Now, Kid Buu, not unlike Cell and Budokai 1, is an incredibly stupid fight. He's got a lot of health, and it's not hard for him to smack you around. He is, however, easy enough to cheese by making sure you clear at least a couple of health bars at a time before more than likely dying. Then just heal at a dende and come back. Or you could use the much easier and much cheesier way to do it. You equip the heart virus and vaccine capsules, stay on defense, and watch as his health drains down to nothing. Finish off with a few well-placed karate chops and repeat. Now we watch or skip the credits, which Shinron arrives at the end of if you've collected all of the Dragon Balls. Try not to simp so hard that you wish for Bulma's costume, as it does absolutely nothing for you. Instead, you can wish for Babadi's ship, which gives you access to a few different minigames, which can lead you to unlocking a portion of the select few characters that aren't unlocked through the story mode. Or you could wish for the breakthrough capsule of whoever you beat the game with. These capsules eat up all of the customization space for your character, but they also grant you access to all of the character's moveset. This is doubly effective on characters with lots of transformations, because transformations eat up your customization like nothing else. Kaioken, Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, that's 4 out of 7 of your customization slots. Side note, do not bother equipping fusions in story mode. You cannot use them in story mode, and for whatever reason, it neither tells you that you can't nor disallows you from equipping a fusion technique. Instead, it will just eat up your slots and leave you with nothing more than your basic attacks. Story mode over. Fantastic. Here's where I would talk about World Tournament mode, but aside from also not allowing fusions, it functions the exact same way it does in the prior game. 3 difficulties, unlock them one after another in the recommended capsule selection of the capsule shop, assuming you have enough characters to fill the roster. No. Instead, we're going to talk about the minigames from Babadi's ship. First minigame, we've got a relatively standard survival mode, with the exception of the fact you're fighting the same character over and over again until you die, which is pretty lame. They do seem to ramp up in difficulty the more you beat them. Or maybe I just fumble the ball pretty hard after every few kills. The second minigame, we try to land as many hits as we can land before the time is up. That's simple enough, and whoa, hey, what's this? We can actually use a fusion? Sick. Now, next to duel, that makes 2 whole modes we can use them in. Also, looks like it doesn't consider any attack that's done in any of these cinematic moves, so not cheesing the hit counter that easy. Third minigame, we have to survive for as long as we can, as we can't do any real damage to our opponent. Attacking said opponent will keep them off of offense for longer, but I'd still just try to keep the gap between the 2 characters as wide as you can. That way you can more easily sidestep projectile spam while also not having to worry about getting meleeed. Additionally, since you can still use custom characters here, try and stack whatever gives you any additional defense. The final minigame, and probably my favorite one of this bunch, is basically Ki Volleyball. Fire a basic Ki Blast, and then be ready to deflect it back and keep the chain going for as long as you can. That's it, nothing particularly crazy. And at the end of every one of these minigames, you'll fill this meter here. It unlocks capsules at different intervals. It also is how you unlock Dabura and all of Buu's forms. But, rather than wasting time doing all of that, or doing all of the story mode for that matter, you could waste your time doing something else entirely. In Budokai 2, you can attain every capsule by going to the capsule shop, holding L2, and going in and out repeatedly. Forever. You should see your percentage going up steadily, but it slows to a crawl the closer you get to 100%. If you do try this method, it can take upwards of 20 minutes, and it really sucks to sit there pressing those same buttons over and over again, while Bulma repeats the same annoying lines. Granted, this is still way better than unlocking everything naturally with as long as it can take to unlock certain capsules. And oh hey, it unlocks her costume changes as well, not that anybody should care. Something different to look at in the shop, I guess. That is more or less Budokai 2, and as a game, it has its moments, but does it hold up? Absolutely not. Along with a few returning issues from the first game, like a lot of basic combos not being true, there are new problems, like having to fight the same character up to 5 times in a row in story mode, like really not being able to take advantage of fusions, like
Fight the next time you come in, okay? Fight the next time you come in, okay? Fight the next time you come in, okay?
Budokai 2 is a messy game. But Budokai 3?